Alright, what's going on, everybody? As I'm sure you've already heard, we've got some news here that there's going to be a new worldwide version of War of the Visions. Not only was there an in-game notice, there was also a stream, and I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of other videos commenting on this, so I kind of just wanted to throw in my thoughts on what's going on here. Now, this is something that I totally did not expect. I know I kind of made a video saying that this is kind of this like season right now is super exciting for me because the summer units don't really have any mastery skills, so it's kind of a chance for us to kind of like not be able to predict what's going on. But they kind of pretty much decided to not let us be able to predict what's going on with anything, so that I thought was super interesting. And as soon as I sort of figured out what they were going to do in terms of speeding up some of the releases, I kind of just thought of this gif here as my reaction, where it's like I'm kind of happy, but it's kind of like going to be a little bit of a nightmare I know for a lot of people. Myself, it's going to be okay for me. I think I'm still going to be excited about it. So one of the things I was kind of looking at is what's actually coming in terms of limited units. And the thing is, aside from FF5, we don't really have that much. Of course, I'm kind of just not really including Summer. Summer's just going to be its own thing. We're probably most likely still going to get at least one unit, but a lot of the units are going to be older, so I don't think they're really going to be, from the developer side, I don't think they're really going to be all that worried about whether we're going to be able to pull all of those or not. If you guys want that, you're going to have to spend on that, unfortunately. There are a couple of things that are semi-limited. There's going to be a new version of Alaya. That unit seems to be limited, even though I guess it's like, I don't really know for sure, but it seems like it's story related. And a lot of the other 100 cost units that are coming up seem to be story related. So not a lot. There's going to be Melnia, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be the queen from Ovis, one of the sisters from Ovis. So those are going to be story related. The one that's not necessarily story related is going to be Raph, and Raph is probably going to be on repeat, so I don't think we have that much to worry about. Summer's going to be on repeat. Okay, granted, that's like once a year with maybe a halfway point rerun, but I think we don't have that much to worry about in terms of how many units are going to be coming out. So I understand it's still going to be annoying. I get that for sure. I agree with that too, but hopefully a lot of these units are going to be in the standard pool. On top of that, they also mentioned that we're going to get some summon tickets. They weren't really super specific on what we're going to be able to summon. They said it's going to be based on how much Viz we spent from the beginning of the game, and I think that's going to be a lot. So that's basically one ticket for every temple you've done. That's going to be a lot of tickets. So it's going to be annoying if those are only standard pool, or if they don't at least let us save them until like we catch up to where JP is now. So if that's the case, that would be perfectly fine. But with those summon tickets, we should be able to get units like Wingstern and every other story 100 cost unit. They should be in the pool. I'm not saying we should be guaranteed them, but they should be in the pool. So hopefully that wouldn't be too bad. But my question is, are those going to be usable for some of these limited units that are coming up, such as the summer units? I think that's going to be fine if they add those into the mix. But I'm kind of doubting I'm probably not gonna be usable for FF5 if I'm being honest, and I doubt that they're gonna be usable for like Raph or any of the Void Crystal Warriors, whatever they're called. Okay, so I thought it was interesting. One thing that I did notice is that since they've already released Final Fantasy VI rerun a little bit earlier, I think it was like a week or two earlier than it should have been, and so now Final Fantasy V is, not entirely sure, like maybe a month or two earlier than it should have been. It feels like they're kind of already compressing the time. They kind of already started before, So it doesn't seem like it's going to be that bad. We've yet to see. Obviously, it's going to depend a lot on how much we're going to get from Haruki's gift and all that stuff. So it's going to depend on that a lot. So one of the things about the new worldwide version is I'm a little bit confused as to what is going to actually happen. It feels like it's still going to technically be two different versions of the game. They're calling it the worldwide version, but honestly, I think it's just going to be an effort to make both the versions as close as possible. But it's still literally going to be two different versions. The vision cards are going to be different. The PvP is going to be different. So, not entirely sure what they mean. But like, the part where I'm actually confused is with the translation delay. They mentioned it was going to be mostly for certain collab units and certain units, but like I'm not entirely sure. Like right now in the global version, we already have units that only have JP or Japanese voices, so I'm not entirely sure what the delay is going to be. Does that mean that new Final Fantasy collab units are going to have English voices? Probably not. So really the only translation I see going on is the skills for the kit. Like 100%, I have no problem with taking time for that. But I don't understand why if they really want to make it a unified version, why don't they delay it on the JP side for like a week or two so that they can release them both at the same time? That's kind of my thoughts on that. Okay, so continuing onward, one of the other things that they mentioned was the global EX units. There's not going to be any more new global EX units, which is fine because I think FFBE units are going to be safe. So just going by the release of Reagan and maybe Hyo for some reason isn't out in the JP version. I don't really understand that. But for me, as long as they keep releasing these FFBE units, they somehow figure out how to squeeze them in, I think it's fine for me to not have global EX units. Granted, it's going to be sad not to have like Lara Croft like units, and I mean, I don't really know who's upset about Addison Rae type units not showing up, but yeah, I think as long as we have FFBE units, I should be pretty happy with that. And please, Gumi, please release these two really awesome units from FFBE. I think they are both pretty badass, and I would like them to have them in the game. Granted, I'm pretty sure we're never going to get Louise in the game because she doesn't really fit into the sort of like the fantasy setting, but you know, at least I can wish and hope, right? Okay, moving onwards. So kind of another thing I wanted to touch on, speaking of Hyo, what is stopping them from putting Hyo and certain other units into the game on the JP side so that they can sort of just pad that out a little bit more so that we can catch up without having to compress time on the units as much. That's just me saying that. That's pretty much just a wish. I doubt they're going to do that, but I don't see why they would not do that. And I understand that the JP players don't really want Addison Rae or Lara, but I'm sure, like, why don't they want Hyo? Why don't they want like the other FFBE units that we kind of have on our side? Okay, moving onwards. So one of the things I wasn't really clear on is the story. So one of the things they mentioned is spoilers in the story. People kind of know the spoilers from the JP side, so they wanted to prevent spoilers. I don't really think that's one of their issues, but I think what they honestly want to prevent is people being able to predict units so that they could save their viz appropriately. I think that's what this really is about. And honestly, I'm for that because, like, for example, if we think back to Sephiroth, everyone knew Sephiroth was coming. Everyone saved for Sephiroth. Everybody knew Transcendence was coming. So everybody pulled Sephiroth, built Sephiroth, and has Sephiroth. So not everybody, obviously, but I think it was kind of like really annoying just to see all those Sephiroths. And like now that there's not going to be a prediction, I think like if there is another unit like a Sephiroth or like I don't really know what people like Kuja or something like that, right? If they release Kuja, it's just going to come out at a certain point, and people aren't going to be able to predict. And some people, like, most people will still pull for Kuja or whoever it's going to be. It's just going to be like, there's going to be certain people that are just guaranteed not to pull for him, even though they might have wanted him. So instead of like 100% of people pulling for Kuja or whoever the new Sephiroth is going to be, maybe only 95% of the people are going to pull for him. And, people won't be able to max him on day one, things like that. So it's going to be different as opposed to Sephiroth, where people had him max day one and blah, blah, blah. So I think it's going to allow the game to be a little bit more exciting, because we're not going to have like that one, whatever month or whatever, where the meta is going to be that one unit that everyone was waiting for. So that's my reasoning for liking the fact that they're trying to put everything and unify everything together. So I think that's going to be the good part of what's happening with this worldwide version. I don't think it's going to be spoiler related. So going back to the story, are they going to compress the story? I think that's going to be really, like, one of the positives of this is if they compress the story, we actually should be able to get like story like once every 2 weeks or something like that, or once every week instead of how it is now. I think it's once every 3 weeks. So I think that's something that's super exciting. And they kind of didn't mention story in terms of translation. So that's obviously something that needs to be translated and needs to be recorded with the voice actors. So I'm not really sure why they only mentioned collab characters in terms of that 1 month delay. I'm guessing the story is going to be on somewhat of a delay, but if they're going to come out simultaneously, then that would kind of make a little bit more sense, because then, since they are translating that means they won't really have time to be translating the collab units that come out at the same time as story. So to me, that would kind of make a little bit more sense. So yeah, sorry guys, that was a lot. I'm kind of just like blabbing on here, but try to stick with me a little bit longer. And then the last kind of thing I wanted to mention about the worldwide version is it feels like since we're kind of targeting September to be kind of unified, it feels like we're going to get another collab or another set of limited units or something in September, late September. We know that we're probably going to get Halloween in October. So I don't know, guys, if you're kind of wanting to save for something, I feel like we might get surprised in late September, early October, in addition to the Halloween units. So I feel like that's almost like maybe they want us to think about that, but I feel like that's almost implied with the September date. Like they're trying to rush it for a certain date. So I feel like they have plans for something that's coming up right after. Okay, that all being said, there's a whole bunch of other stuff here. I mean, it's the usual stuff like Transcendence. But one of the things that has me actually a little bit more bothered than the whole time compression thing is, well, I mean, I guess this still technically counts, is that we're going to get class match and limited guild battle pretty much at the same time. 7/22. Yeah, so to me, like, I enjoy doing both, but like it feels a little bit stressful in terms of having to build a team for both. It looks like there might be overlap in how you might be able to use the same team. So I might try to just make the same team, if I'm being honest. The class match is going to be 270 cost for units, so that's going to be a little bit more flexible. And the limited guild battle is going to be a 570 total cost, so that's going to include espers and VCs. So I'm probably going to just try to use the same team. I'll make the team for the limited guild battle, and then I'll probably use that same team for class match. Aside from that, I don't really want to go too deep into Final Fantasy V. I think a lot of people already kind of know about that. And also the good thing about Final Fantasy V is that we are getting a free 100 cost Barts. So, or in other words, butts. Yeah, I think that's going to be a good part about it. It's pretty much standard with any collab, but at least we're getting that. So it's going to help us to sort of mitigate some of the changes that are going to be happening. And then last but not least, a little complaint that I had with the maintenance. I feel like the maintenance has been happening on a lot of weeks where we have, like, for example, raid. I feel like the last raid there was like a 6-hour maintenance, not the Addison raid, the one before that. So I feel like a little bit bothered by the fact that it takes up time that you could be raiding, you know, get those last minute raids in. There's also the guild raids happening right now, so getting those last minute guild raids, just be aware of the maintenance. I feel like they always do this when it's like a little bit of a stressful period. I wish they would plan that a little bit better, but I kind of understand that they're kind of rushing up to Final Fantasy V, so that's probably what's causing it. Alright, I was trying to keep this video short. I'm at 15, almost 16 minutes, so hopefully that was short enough, and hopefully I added to the conversation a little bit more than the stuff that's already been said. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.